Morning, we're getting some first-hand insight on the war from a man who's from Maine, who's been a journalist in Israel now for a few decades.
Our Hania Yeshivi spoke with him directly and is here now to share what he shared.
Good morning, Lee and Sharon. Good morning, everyone. David Brinn has lived in Israel close to 40 years. Brinn works for the Jerusalem Post, one of the main newspapers in Jerusalem. He told me that because Israel is such a small country, it's not hard to know someone who was a victim, who is or was held hostage, or who's been called back to serve in the Israel Defense Forces, like his son, who is 29 and served for 3 weeks. Brinn says life is still going on in Israel. Some of the unsafe areas in the country have been evacuated, and over 1 million Israeli families in the target zones have been placed in hotels or are now living with other family members for their safety. But still, every day, people hear alerts about rockets or have to run and find shelter in the middle of the day. Brinn also said that according to his research, he found more people have come back to Israel to join the battle and serve rather than those who left. Brinn says it's also hard to report on the actual situation in Gaza because Hamas doesn't allow reporters inside, and it's actually a very dangerous place. Here's his overall message to Mainers.
I think Mainers, like all Americans, should identify with Israel as the only true democracy in the Middle East. We advocate the same policies as America, and we are on the front lines against the extremism that is threatening, the Western world, Europe and America. And Hamas is just another face of ISIS. They showed their true face on October 7th, and they threaten violence elsewhere. They threaten terror elsewhere outside of this area. So I think that Mainers should, support Israel's efforts in the war, because we're trying to keep the region and the world safe for democracy.
Despite what's going on, Brinn tells me he actually feels safer in Jerusalem right now than in any of the major cities in the United States. Coming up in our next half hour, I'll share why he says it's so important to double check your sources of information where you get the news from the war, as there's a lot of misinformation out there. Hania Yeshivi, News Center.